Today, we're going to be talking about the book called Profit First. And so this episode is going to be full of business finance tips just for professional organizers. And if you have never run a business before, you're definitely going to want to take notes on this one.
You're listening to the Pro Organizer Studio podcast with Jen Obermeyer. Thank you for joining in. Jen makes it her mission to broaden the horizons of savvy businesswomen in the organizing industry by instilling confidence and inspiring authenticity. She is a devoted business coach and founder of the Inspired Organizer program. Each week, you'll gain new insight into strategies designed specifically for professional organizers. And now, let's get started.
Okay, so I want to tell you guys, I'm like promoting a product, and not really, because I'm not getting paid to do this, but I read this book this week, and the name of the book is Profit First, and it is by Mike Michalowicz. Maybe that's how you say his last name. This was recommended to me by another blogger that I follow online, and I bought it because I've always tried to run my accounting, like my financial side of my organizing business, very simply. It really fits in with my philosophy on life, which is like to simplify as much as possible. That's why my business name was Simplify Professional Organizing, and so I had simple accounting for Simplify Professional Organizing. So I always kept things like really basic, but then I let my boyfriend / math genius / math nerd handle all my taxes and stuff, and now I feel really kind of more like, okay, I really want to take my financial knowledge to the big girl business level, if you will. And I know a lot of people in this group have asked questions about setting aside money for taxes and how things work when you're an LLC versus a sole proprietor. How to, do basic things set aside money for different purposes, what kind of business expenses, how do you keep your expenses low, what is a good investment for your business, that kind of thing. And even though I don't talk about money too much, because I have been silently trying to educate myself on some maybe best practices or some recommendations that I would have for you guys, because I didn't really know how to answer you guys when you ask questions about LLCs. So I have been reading not just this book, but other books about some different ways, especially when you are the sole owner of a business, you're a solo entrepreneur and you have to wear all of those hats. I think it's really important to have that conversation and to think ahead on some things, because here's the thing is that I always tell you guys, my expertise is in how to help you make the money. And I still believe that. I obviously believe that. I think that's my number one thing that I'm trying to get out there is here's how to make some money. But I also want to be known as somebody who helps you keep it and spend it the right way. I read the entire thing in less than a week. I really buckled down with it this weekend and hashed out exactly what I was going to do for me and my business. But I was also thinking through okay, how would I explain this to someone who is starting their organizing business, and how would I what recommendations would I make based on some of the things that I saw happen to me and to other people when they were starting out. And I don't want to cause any anxiety or concern if I say well, here's the way I did it, and then all of a sudden a bunch of people think that that's the way you have to do it. I don't want to have that effect on people, because as you guys know, I care a lot about you guys getting out of that perfectionistic mode and into the just doing and learning by doing and correcting your mistakes as you go along. Is totally okay. So we're going to be talking about money. We're going to talk about some of the concepts in this book, but I'm also going to take it to the next level. I'm going to use the concepts in this book to kind of talk to you about how to work backwards, the money that you need to make after taxes. And we're going to work backwards and talk about all the things that you have to account for when you set your pricing, and then We're going to go from there. We're going to go back up to the big picture of package pricing, which is something we do talk about a lot, but I'm going to like try to connect those two pieces so that you guys really understand like how does my pricing decision affect the actual money that I'm making after I do all the big girl business things like pay my taxes, you know. Now, I am not an accountant. I am not a lawyer. I am not like a super expert in all those things. What I always say is like, hey, what I think I'm really, really good at is helping you guys make the money, okay? But, you know, I'm going to sort of give you some guidance on how to ensure that your business is profitable and that you can grow it in a way that is very sustainable. However, you guys still have to take that information and kind of use it wisely and continue doing your own research to build on that. So just take me with a grain of salt. Like if I say something that is flat out wrong or you disagree with, like that is totally fine. We're going to talk about something that they discuss in Profit First, which is targets, allocation, percentages. And that is in chapter 5. And that is a fancy way of saying, all right, so let's say that like me today, you made $1,020. That's how much I made on my client today. That's for my 4-session package. And so she wrote me a check. We skipped the consultation, so don't nitpick my process here, since I always tell you guys to get paid in advance, but I got paid today. She wrote me a check for $1,020. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Okay. So an allocation percentage means this. So if I get that check for $1,020, we're going to call that like this big category of income, like it's just income. Okay. But after you get the income, let's pretend like it's all cash and that you divvy it out into 4 envelopes. Okay. And those envelopes have these names. One of the names is taxes. One of the names is operating expenses. That's business expenses. One of the names is owner's compensation, which means more or less your salary, like your salary out of that paycheck. And then the 4th category is profit. Now, profit is also money that is coming to you, but it's separate from, I mean, in the Profit First framework, it's separate from your owner's compensation. And here's why. The owner's compensation is going to be like your base salary, and let's say the profit is going to be like what you take or what you make out of your business, and he sets it up to where you take that profit cut quarterly. Okay, there's a lot more detail in the book about this, but I just gave you guys like the gist of it. Okay, so we're going to talk about these allocation percentages and what he suggests your targets are, and so I'm going to talk through that, and then I'm going to help you guys break down the package that I did today. And then we're going to you're going to kind of see how this can be adjusted a little bit based on your situation and what your goals are for your business. So let's talk about this. So I'm going to give you guys the four percentages that he says. Okay. So I was talking about your envelopes. All right. And we're going to talk about why. So don't freak out yet. Okay. 15% of every income, every transaction that you bring into your business, 15% should go into your tax envelope. Okay. 30% should go into your operating expenses envelope. That's your business expenses that can cover a lot of different things. So we're going to talk about that. 50% should go into your owner's compensation envelope, which is like your base salary. And then 5% should go into your profit envelope, which is your profit that you would pull quarterly. And that would just be like your bonus. That would be the money that your business made over and above all of its expenses. Okay. Oh, y'all say you do love me no matter what. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. So let's do a little quick math. So the easiest one, let's talk about 50% of $1,020 is $510. So let's write down $510 goes into your owner's compensation. I'm going to write this down along with you guys. $510 goes into your owner's comp envelope. Okay. 15% goes into your tax envelope, and this is to save for later. And I know right now you guys are like, 15%? Why is it 15%? We're going to talk about that in a minute, okay? Okay, so that's $153. Okay, 30% goes into your operating expenses envelope. That's $306. And 5% goes into your profit envelope, and that is $51. Okay. Profit. Okay, so you guys might be wondering a few things. Owner's comp, tax, operating expenses. Okay. He basically wants you to set up bank accounts for all of these things. Again, go in the book. It makes much more sense than me explaining to you. He wants you to pull your tax savings and your profit savings away from like your core bank accounts, because he's like, don't go touching those things like when you want to buy something for your business or when you're short on like money that you needed to make that month. Now again, and we're gonna go into this. This is what he says is the ideal, but I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit about our business and how I think that you could adjust these percentages a little bit. But I wanted you guys to understand this first. All right, so why are taxes only 15%? Well, when you think about it this way, you're only going to get taxed on actual, and the reason why I'm explaining this to you guys, and I'm going to try to explain this, is because this is one of the hardest things for me to understand in this book. Because I always thought that taxes were like 25% of 25 to 35% of your overall income. Okay. The reason why it's 15% of your revenue. Okay, so let's talk about this. That $1,020 that I made today is my revenue. It's not all my personal income, because my business brought that in, and now it has to be divvied out, and then I can I can take and spend appropriately, if that makes sense. Okay, so 15% of what I made today, that's $153, should be roughly equal to 35% of what I'm eventually going to take out of the business. That would be owner's compensation and profit. So they're essentially saying that you can account for the fact that your operating expenses will not be taxed on. Does that make sense? So that's why you only have to save 15% of your total. Okay, so now we have kind of a little bit broken down what he says your ideal targets are going to be. Let's go back for a minute. So if this is what I write down. So this is our numbers. My owner's compensation. Let's go back to this part, because this is probably one of the biggest parts that you guys want to know about. So if I was only taking 50% of what I made as my owner's compensation, that would break down to, I could divide out the number of like real hours I spent on this specific job and get a hourly rate for this specific job. But since every client's gonna be a little bit different and you spend a different amount of time for every client, you are only really ever with our business going to be able to reach kind of an average rate, an average hourly rate of pay. And again, remember, this is just your base that you're pulling out. Now, if you are able, going back to what I was saying a minute ago, if you're able to reduce your operating expenses by a good bit, then you can up your owner's compensation by a corresponding amount. You just have to realize that you're going to be taxed on a little bit more. But remember, that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing to pay taxes. I mean, and you don't have a choice. But the more money you make, the more taxes you pay. It's a fact of life, apparently. All right, so I'm going to give you guys a rough idea of how many hours, like real hours, I have spent or am expecting to spend, because I'm going to finish this job tomorrow. Hours that I have spent with this client. Okay, let me just do hash marks. All right, so I have the 12 hours that I'm doing in her home. Okay. Now, since I did 2 sessions in one day, I only had to drive there and back two different times, and she lives 45 minutes away. So that's an hour and a half one day and an hour and a half the next day. So that's 3 hours. Okay. I'm going to say that today I spent approximately 1 hour total after her session on some things that she needed me to do. I ran by the charity place that she wanted me to drop off that she specified that's close to her house. I also dropped off some stuff at a consignment store that basically assesses everything and then gives you the money right there, except I had to come back an hour and a half later. Spent about 5 minutes dropping that off, about 5 minutes picking it up. Then I went and put some stuff in my dumpster in my apartment complex. That took 2 minutes. But let's just assume that. Oh, and also I went to Target tonight. So I spent some time wandering around Target. I was trying to minimize that because I knew, I didn't have all night to spend there because I had to get here for you guys. I bought a couple of other things for myself, so I felt like, things that I needed for myself, so I felt like that trip was worth it. But let's say I spent about 1 hour total after her job was done on some little errands that I needed to do for her. So I'm going to write down another hour. Now, let's go back. When we first talked back in October, we talked on the phone for an hour easily. So I'm going to put down an hour for that. Because she was a referral from another client that was like one of her BFFs, and she texted me pictures of her spaces that we're going to talk about. We actually skipped the in-home consultation, so I did not have to drive all the way in there and back and spend an hour and a half. That would have been 3 hours that I actually saved because she was a referral. Think about that. So I'm not going to I don't need to write down any time for that. I would say when we got back in touch with each other in March, a month ago, when she texted me and said, hi, I need you, please tell me your availability again, can't wait. We probably spend about 30 minutes texting each other back and forth, so I'm going to write down a 0.5 of an hour. And then tomorrow, let's assume that I don't spend any more time on errands tomorrow, but like after we get done tomorrow, I might actually, for her, what would make sense is for me to write up, I don't know, let's say I'm going to spend another half an hour kind of writing up sort of like a maintenance plan for her to do for herself, because this client is very capable of doing that. So let's add another half an hour. That will balance out what we're doing here. And then let's say I spend another 1 hour on taking her stuff to the donation drop off. I'm just rounding up. Okay, so how much do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 3 is 7, plus 12 is 19 hours. Okay, so here's the moment of truth. $510, this is my owner's compensation number that we got from my original breakdown. Okay, $510 divided by 19 hours equals, still, even with all that work that I did on the outside of her job, $26.84 per hour. Okay, so we're just gonna let you guys let that sink in. Now, so if I were, and this is still with me, okay, so I took this $1,020 and I still set aside out of that $1,020, $306 to put towards my business operating expenses. This is if I'm following the Profit First system. Now, what is involved in your operating expenses? This could be, first of all, it can range from almost zero if you're getting started. If you're just getting started, there's almost nothing that is required of you to just get started. You legally in almost every state, and I super hesitate to say this because I don't want you guys, this is not legal advice. This is not legal advice. The different insurance requirements for different businesses, you guys have to do your own research on that and figure out what works for you, what works for the business structure that you've selected, what works for your state. Are there local regulations and licensing or whatever? But listen, you don't, if everybody, you just to get one client or two clients or five clients and say hey, I'm trying to figure out if I even like this job or not, you need to have a contract that that the clients sign, that that they are waiving some of their liability. But if everybody had insurance when they first started out, they would be in the hole before they even started making money, and that doesn't make a lot of sense. You guys, bootstrapping is doing what you got to do just to get things started. So you got to have money coming in if you ever want to buy insurance, and if you're ever going to have a business that's worth insuring, it better be something you are super ready to grow and promote, and that you're really comfortable selling. And so I hope that makes sense to you guys, because insurance is an investment in your business. I know that it's a protection, but it's also if you had to have all that stuff just to get started on your very first client, it's nobody would ever get started. And so sometimes you got to do what you have to do. It's not if it's not a legal requirement, then you need to kind of do the bare minimum just to get started, and then later on you can invest in something that's more comprehensive or what have you. Okay, so that's a little bit about insurance. There are other expenses that are somewhat minimal that I think are a really good idea. So that would be, what you pay for a really basic website. Now you can get a free website. There are so many resources for this. Wix is one that we talk about. I think Weebly has a free version. I really, really recommend Squarespace, which is only $12 a month. It makes you look amazing. It is the thing that is going to launch your business. And then there's a lot of other things that I suggest, but that are not required at all. Something we talk about a lot in the group is, for example, getting headshots. And a lot of you girls have had a lot of success just trading your services just to get headshots, just to get started. So can you guys sense that there's a lot of wiggle room, at least in terms of just getting yourself off the ground? Your operating expenses could be very, very, very low. And so this is just an example, but I would say that my operating expenses could be as low as 5%, especially now, because I do not pay any money. I don't pay any money for advertising. I did spend money on advertising when I first started my business, and oh my God, what a waste of money. Especially in terms of the things that I did to actually get me clients cost me almost nothing. There were other advertising that I did because I thought it would make me look super legit and automatically bring me a whole bunch of clients, and they didn't. So that's something that if you guys are really smart about, you could save a whole bunch of money on. Another operating expense would be having a NAPO membership. That is not required. I spent money on that, and that didn't help me get more clients. Just a thought. So there's a lot of ways for you guys to be creative and get that number down. And if you get that number down, then your owner's compensation, that hourly rate, goes up. Oh, let's do this. Let's break down a different package. Let's break down a different package that I offer, and let's see how it pans out. Actually, I've already done this on paper. So here's how that breaks down. It's 24 sessions. That's 72 hours. So I offer that for 50. It's a package deal. So it includes everything that I include with my regular package, but for, you know, that many sessions. So I offer it at 50% off of my regular rate. So it's $3,600, so the way my package pricing works is I have an hourly rate. It's $100 an hour. And then I have like a tiered percentage discount for 4, 8, 12, and 24. 24 sessions, and each session is 3 hours. So that's how I got to 72 actual in-home hours per client. Okay. So let's add this up. So I have 72 actual in-home hours. Let's add an average of 1 hour for each session. And you know, you are not going to need to go and do shopping and do. You're not going to need to do every single thing every single time with every single session with every single client. But let's just say, you spend an hour possibly doing a little bit of Pinterest research, or, you know, doing like an in-between session phone call or texting or whatever, like actual time you're spending with that client. So let's just average that out to 24. We're going to add 1 hour for each session. So that's 24 hours. In this example, I didn't add in travel time, but let's assume that she lives close to you. I mean, that it's not an actual 45-minute distance every time. You know, but if you want to kind of play around and add that in, you can do that. Okay. So that's about 90, we're going to say it's 96 hours that you're really spending on your client. With the $3,600 that you made on this package, if we break it down with the target allocation percentages that are in the Profit First book, that would be $1,800 that goes in the owner's compensation. That's 50%. Then you have 15% that goes in your tax account. That's $540. You have 30% that goes into your operating expenses account. That's $1,080. And then you have 5% that goes in your profit account. That's $180. Okay, so let's talk about this. So when you break that down for 96 hours at $1,800 in your owner's compensation, that's a base pay of $1,875 an hour. Which, now, what are you getting? Now, that doesn't sound as good as $2,684 or whatever I said a minute ago, but you guys have to compare it to. You have to ask yourself a few questions with this. One is, what you're getting when you have a client who's bought this big package is that you have actually already planned into your future and secured into your future that you're going to have this paying client over a certain amount of time. Now, you guys might agree to several different things. When I did my biggest package, I did about half of it, like all in like the span of 2 weeks, and then the rest of it we did over the course of the entire next year. Like I came back basically once a month. Or you guys could be spending 2 sessions a week for 12 weeks. So, but what you get, what she's buying is, and what you are getting when you offer her that discount is you're actually securing in your calendar and in your income projections, like how much money you're going to be making, and you're not going to have to go and chase this client for anything. I mean, really, because she has already committed to the entire project up front. It's going to solve a lot of problems. That's kind of a separate conversation about package pricing that we've already had. But it's extremely valuable, and this is probably going to be, the kind of client who... It's the kind of client who realizes that she probably needs you not just for this 24 sessions, but for forever. So you could work with her, once or twice a week for 12 weeks or 24 weeks, and then she's like, let me re-sign on again, because once she's already kind of addicted to you, she has you on the books. And then you guys have to take into consideration too that with this $3,600 client, that you now have $1,080 in your operating expenses that could be used now. I'm not suggesting at all when we break these things down like per package that you actually go and reinvest that money right away in your operating expenses. Like you should save that in its own envelope, in its own bank account, and use it when you need it. Like it's not like something that you have to like immediately use or anything, but I think it's smart to take a portion, like in the system, to take a portion. It might not have to be 30%, it could just be 10%. And if you want to keep your expenses like super low and do everything yourself, you never want to hire a web designer, you never want to invest in a class, you don't even want to do any of that stuff, totally fine. But you're going to have to do a lot on your own, and you're going to have to do a lot of like time. It's going to take you a lot more time to do those things on your own. But, we didn't finish like breaking down this package all the way down, but we talked about $18.75 an hour would be your owner's compensation base pay. And we talked about why that's such a benefit to you. And I don't know what y'all are making hourly in your job now. But let's say you got, there's so many ways that you can work this. And this is another reason why if you don't have the capacity to sell a 24 session package, don't offer it. Like I stopped offering it because I could not, because I was mainly working on the weekends. I didn't want to book my whole entire next year and know that I couldn't take off a single weekend if I, for like travel or whatever, because I was like booked with one single client, forever. Like that was just not what I wanted to do. So I'm only committing to shorter packages at this time, which means that my base pay of what I'm making is higher. And I also have gotten to the point where my operating expenses are very low because I've already, I've done my own website. I've already invested in the things that I'm going to invest in. I'm not paying for any more advertising. Et cetera, et cetera. So there you go. All right. So you guys play with your numbers a little bit and see what you come up with. Remember that if you bring your operating expenses down, if you bring that percentage down and you put it more towards your owner's compensation, or even towards your profit, just remember that you will be taxed, that the tax amount will go up, because it'll be a higher percentage of what you're bringing home. See, that wasn't a perfect explanation, but I just gave it a shot, and I hope that stirred up some questions for you guys, and we'll get more into this. Okay, thank you guys a million times over for working through your math problems with me, because I know it's not quite as fun as some of the stuff that we do sometimes, but this makes my heart race in a good way, because I really like seeing the real numbers in my business, and I still get this excited to have a new client, and I absolutely do, girl, because my clients over time just get better and better, and I'm just I love having that feeling of I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. I can't believe I have made a business out of the thing that I love to do for people and with people. It is the best feeling in the entire world, and so worth even when I talk about I made a bunch of mistakes and I, wish I could go back and undo all that, it's it was worth all that learning experience, because I feel so confident when I go into situations now, because, I just have put myself out there. And when you put yourself out there, it's scary, and you say dumb stuff sometimes, and you make mistakes, and then you worry about what they think about you. But now I'm at that point where I feel very on my game and in my zone, and it's what I love to do.
Thank you for listening to the Pro Organizers Studio podcast. If you'd like to learn more about time-saving services and resources for professional organizers, visit www.proorganizerstudio.com. And if you'd like to get Jen's roadmap to success for launching and growing your professional organizing business, go straight to www.poroadmap.com.